Hey everybody, Crimson and Darcy's here again, bringing you a PvT match. This is one where Crimson, myself, actually plays. So this is just a match between friends. It's not a quick match or anything. I'm spawning as the blue Protoss in the top right corner, and Vinneas, the guy I'm playing, is spawning as the red Terran in the bottom left corner. And basically, he just wanted to try out a new Terran build. He's a platinum player that tried to mix it up and go Terran. He used to play a lot of Zerg and Protoss, and he wanted to use Terran, so he actually moved down to gold, preparing, or I guess, trying out some new moves.
Yeah, so I think this is going to be a very interesting game because this is a relatively new race for Vinneas. However, he is familiar with the whole structure of StarCraft 2 and knows a bunch of builds and knows exactly what to build one after another, which is very important. Especially important is kind of maintaining a drone count or probe or harvester and knowing at what point you want to build what and generally, kind of a big point when you're doing builds is you have to watch out for what the other person's doing as well. However, since this is just a match of Vinneas trying to try out this build, this isn't going to be a really just who can win. This is mainly just we're gonna have fun and try out this build.
Yeah, he actually told me to use my standard build. He's probably seen it maybe once or twice. Usually involves gateway, going into cybernetics core after first gate, and getting some gas pretty early on, get out that first soccer. I usually do that against Terran, or really any race now, in case of Reaper rushes or something like a Zergling rush or anything like that.
I think that it's important to get out that first cybernetics core, especially for the early scouting of the other player, because you can move around with your probe and try to find out and try to kill them, but the other player can move just as fast and just circle your base, and the same goes for Zealot. The Zealot has the same speed as a standard harvester, so you really need a stalker with that ranged power to be able to take out that beginning scout.
Yeah, I find that one advantage for the Terran. They start out their initial unit, the Marine, has range, so any kind of initial scouting SCV or just Harvester in general is it's not going to do much. I guess somewhat of a disadvantage then for the Terran would be they don't have something like an Observer or a lot of cloaked units, I guess, which usually most players actually just use for gets sort of a cheese. Since I don't see like a Dark Templar army becoming something that pros do.
One thing I wanted to ask you is usually players when they're doing the cybernetics core build, they're going to build one pylon and then a gate, a simulator, and then a cyber. You built your cybernetics core about the same time as your simulator, and your simulator finished after the cybernetics core. Is there any reason for that will give you an advantage here?
Um, Actually, I wish I didn't think you'd notice that, but that was actually an accident. I built my simulator a bit too late because I was focusing too much on that SCV, trying to destroy it so he wouldn't scout too much. But normally I do go pylon, gateway, and then maybe another pylon in case I want to get some more harvesters out, or probably just go into the cybernetics core immediately.
Now, the build that we're seeing here from Vinneas is known as the 111, in which he has one barracks with a reactor, one starport, and one factory. And this starport is going to be pumping out Raven so that it can be detector. It's also going to be using the defense drone. And as you may have seen, the starport and factory just switch places so that the starport can have that quick tech lab. And we see the orbital command already up. And so this build will eventually go into Banshees and Siege tanks with Siege mode and Marines. What's interesting is that it does not have Marauders.
Yeah. Whenever I first saw what he was doing. See, kind of sent out some zealots and a stalker there, and pulled him back. I was trying to figure out what exactly he was doing, because he told me he was doing a new build that a lot of Platinum Terran players use now, except how they evolved over time, I guess. And I really had no idea what he was going to do. I was just kind of doing my normal build and seeing what happens. There wasn't much pressure into doing well in this game. Um, so I really had no idea what he was doing, and I still, at this point, really have no idea what he's doing. I think I about get an observer out. Instead, I go for an immortal to start out instead of the observer, which was probably a bad idea in hindsight. But right now, I'm just expanding, staying at my own base. I guess kind of hoping he doesn't have too many units that can destroy me right now.
Yeah, right now we're not seeing a lot of action. Now, a very, I think, smart part of this particular build that Vinneas is going to be doing is that right as he goes out to attack, that's when he starts building his expansion, and so he can really get that up and going. Even if the attack fails, he can just keep the pressure on, which is, I think, very smart. Now, usually, the best time to go for your expansion is once you have a decent army that can protect it while it's building. But it's also very smart to be going for that expansion. And now here we see the observer. I think it's going to be going out to scout.
The important thing about this is that the Raven prevents any sort of scouting, really. Since it, of course, can detect some cloak units, I won't be able to keep that observer there for long with all those Marines. And it also prevents any sort of like Dark Templar rush or something, because those siege tanks aren't very good at all against melee units, as anybody would know. Um, but I think it's important to note the placement of some of my buildings. If you look at the near the top of my base, just recently finished as the robotics bay, and I was kind of counting for a few scouting scans, and I just thought that putting it up there would allow me to use my Colossus effectively.
Yeah, I think you really kind of have to travel between spreading apart your base so that the scan can't really see everything, as at the same time making your base compact enough to where a single like pylon can't decimate your entire plan. And that's kind of sometimes really a delicate balance. And it's especially difficult against the Terran since there's no way to stop the scan, essentially. I guess the only way that would come close is to build some Dark Templars, and if they do not have a Raven, force them to scan it down. But other than that, I don't really see a way of preventing the scan.
Yeah, I've with my experience in the Gold League, and really almost any player that's probably above even Copper knows just how effective the scan is and knowing what your opponent is going to do. As you see, I just recently got a Colossus, and I'm building another Observer because it was destroyed by the Raven, sadly. And now since I beat that first push, and he kind of recklessly sent his Marines forward without much tank help, and initially sent out this tank without any Marine help. I felt pretty confident at this point that his macro and micro were not at its optimum level.